Hello and welcome back to the Unintentional Juror. And this is the catch-up docket, where we go through the filings for the four cases that are open and out there in the, throughout the week. Now, this case, Blake Lively, who has filed a lawsuit against Justin Baldoni for an alleged PR smear campaign against her, has been taking over discussions everywhere. There is so much to really cover because there's been some developments in regards to that front, but we're only gonna focus on the lawsuit for today. There's been some movements. There have been a lot of chatter from unwanted personnel, and when I say unwanted personnel, I mean Amber Heard. Like she has been speaking about this lawsuit, about what's happened. We're not going to be talking much about that today. We're going to be talking only about the lawsuit. And this lawsuit, I gotta tell you, that it's not your conventional lawsuit where it includes a course of action or anything like that. It's pretty much a complaint to outline harassment and outline unwanted sexual behavior that has been inflicted upon Blake Lively by Justin Baldoni, allegedly that is. So we're going to be discussing that, and really and truly, how can the law actually help in this situation? Can it actually help? So that's what we're going to be asking in today's stream. So everyone that's tuned in, thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you hit the like button, as it will really helps with the channel and the growth of the channel. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel as well. If you do enjoy our streams, it will really help out a lot as well. But yeah, so without further, let's go into the lawsuit. Lawsuit is right here. Oh, let me just get some water in me. I'm really dehydrated these days, so yeah. Introduction. So this is the lawsuit. It goes on to say, on January 4th, 2024, prior to resuming filming of It Ends With Us, the film, following guild strikes, an all-hands meeting was convened to address the hostile work environment that had derailed production of the film. Attendees of the meeting included Justin Baldoni, who is the co-chairman and the co-founder of Wayfarer Studios, the owner of the film, as well as the director, executive producer, and actor in the lead role of Ryo Kincaid. Jamie Heath, the chief executive officer of Wayfarer and producer of the film, and Giannetti, the film's representative for its distributor, Sony Pictures Entertainment. Alex Sachs, a producer on the film. Todd Black, a producer on the film, and Blake Lively, who played the role of Lily Bloom in the film. Miss Lively also had the agreed upon right to have a representative present. She chose her husband, given that the meeting was about repeated sexual harassment and the other disturbing behavior by Mr. Baldoni and Mr. Heath. As discussed in the detail below, Miss Lively was forced to address concerns about Mr. Baldoni and Mr. Heath's misconduct with them directly. Let me get this up. And began doing so months before filming began. The concerns she raised were not only for herself but for other female cast and crew, some of whom had also spoken up. The January 4th meeting occurred only after the Wayfarer had rebuffed Miss Lively's efforts repeatedly. During the July 4th meeting, the parties discussed in detail the inappropriate conduct that Miss Lively, employees, and other cast and crew experienced at the hands of Mr. Baldoni and Mr. Heath. After the list below was reviewed and discussed in its entirety, all the parties present agreed that the outlined conduct would cease. So this is the list of all of the conduct that was going on, and she was asking for it to end. So some of the things on the list are as follows: saying no more showing nude videos or images of women, including producer's wife, to Blake Lively and or her employees. No more mention of Mr. Baldoni's or Mr. Heath's previous pornography addiction, or Blake Lively's lack of pornography consumption to Blake Lively or other crew members. No more discussions to Blake Lively and or employees about his personal experiences with sex, including as it relates to other spouses, etc. Blah, yada yada yada. That's all the list there. It includes a lot of things on this list. It's like 30 things was included in this list. There is a lot in there, but we're going to continue reading. It says, this meeting was an essential step in the process the parties had agreed to several months before to allow the cast and crew to safely resume production of the film. In mid-November 2023, the parties had agreed to, in writing, to implement a list of protections enumerated in a contract entitled Protections for Return to Production. Attached here to is Exhibit A. This is Exhibit A. Let's go down to where it will show this. Exhibit A. This is the email that was sent from Lindsay Strasberg to Imani Menziani. I don't know how to say the name. I'm butchering these names. Joseph Lannis was also sent to as well. So it says, Dear Imani and Joseph, with the tentative resolution of the SAG after strike, we are writing to address how to handle a return to the set of It Ends With Us, the film. It is no surprise to the film's producers that the experience of shooting a film has been deeply concerning on many levels. The complaints of our client and others have been repeatedly conveyed and well documented through our pre-production and photography. While we reserve all legal rights, at this stage, our client is willing to forego a more formal HR process in favor of everyone returning to work and finishing the film as long as the set is safe moving forward. In order for our client to feel safe returning to the production, we are attaching a list of protections that will need to be guaranteed and observed by the film producers. If the production is unwilling to accept or uphold these product protections, Our client is prepared to pursue our full legal rights and remedies. This letter is not intended to constitute a full statement of all facts and circumstances relating to this matter. It is intended to be, nor should it be construed as a waiver, release or relinquishment of any of our client's rights or remedies, legal or equitable, all of which are hereby expressly reserved. Sincerely, Lindsay. That's Lindsay Strasberg, Esquire. That was the lawyer, and these are the protections for return to production outlined. And he says, in order for Blake Lively to able to perform to return to production on the film, each of the following protections must be agreed to in writing and met in full without going forward. And it goes on to list all of the protections that was there, including having an interview coach present. So we're not going to be reading all of that, but that's what she made. But that's what she requested going forward. To SAG after. So going back to what we were reading earlier, in paragraph 4, it goes on to say, the protections for return to production attached here to as Exhibit A, which included 17 provisions designed to require wayfarer to cease on-set behavior of Mr. Baldoni and Mr. Heath. One of these provisions required an on all hands meeting to confirm and approve a plan for the implementation of certain protections that will be adhered to for the physical and emotional safety of Miss Lively, her employees, and all cast and crew moving forward. Exhibit A, as we just read. After receiving the document, Wayfarer responded that Wayfarer, Sony, and production respectfully acknowledged that Miss Lively has concerns regarding safety, professionalism, and workplace culture. Although our perspective differs in many aspects, ensuring a safe environment for all is paramount, irrespective of differing viewpoints regarding your outline request. We find most of them not only reasonable, but also essential for the benefit of all parties involved. At the end of January 4th meeting, having discussed at length the details of concerns that has been expressed by Miss Lively and others, the parties have agreed to implement and follow the protections for return to ensure that the film could be completed and marketed and released safely and successfully, and it was. Production of the film resumed on January 5th and concluded on February 9th, 2024. The film has been a resounding success. Leading up to and in connection with the release of the film, during the summer of 2024, Miss Lively and fellow cast members promoted the film in accordance with the marketing plan created and delivered by the film's distributor Sony, which is summarized in the talking points attached here to in Exhibit C. So this was Exhibit C for the marketing plan that was discussed with Sony, and we're going down onto Exhibit C. This is Exhibit C. We're not going to be reading all of this, but this is what they had in the marketing for the marketing plan for the movie. and that's it. Miss Lively and other cast members were under a contractual obligation to render promotional services in accordance with the marketing plan. The marketing plan directed the cast to focus more on Lily's strength and resilience as opposed to describing the film as a story about domestic violence, and avoid talking about this film that makes it feel sad or heavy. It's a story of hope. In the days leading up to the film's release, Mr. Baldoni abruptly pivoted away from the film's marketing plan and the types of publicity activities in which he had previously participated. There's something wrong with this version of that I've got. Let me try and get another version, because for some reason it keeps freezing up. Let me try and get another version. Hopefully this one should be better. Nope. That's not what it's. Hold on, I'm just trying to. Okay, I am unable to get in a different version, so might as well continue on with this one. So bear with me as I read this and try to navigate through all of this. So continuing on with the reading, it goes on to say, in the days leading up to the film's, we've already read that. Let me read it again. Sorry. In the days leading up to the film's release, Mr. Baldoni abruptly pivoted away from the film's marketing plan and one the types of publicity activities in which he had previously participated. What the public did not know was that Mr. Baldoni and his team did so in an effort to explain why many of the film's cast and crew had unfollowed Mr. Baldoni on social media and were not appearing to him with him in public. To that end, he and his team used domestic violence survivor content to protect his public image, as described in further detail below. What the public also did not know was that this was the beginning of a multi-tiered plan that Mr. Baldoni and his team describe as social manipulation designed to destroy Miss Lively's reputation. That plan was backed by virtually unlimited resources. Wayfarer's co-founder, co-chairman, and leading financier is multi-billionaire Steve Sarowitz, who divulged at the firm's New York premiere on August 6, 2024, that he was prepared to spend $100 million to ruin the lives of Miss Lively and her family. With that backing, Mr. Baldoni and his Wayfarer associates embarked on a sophisticated press and digital plan in retaliation for Miss Lively exercising her legal protected right to speak up about their misconduct on the set, with the additional objective of intimidating her and anyone else from revealing in public what actually occurred. So all of this, so this lawsuit, so to speak, is occurring because they have stumbled upon this information about the smear campaign, and the astroturfing that has been enacted on Blake Lively. So that's why all of this exists, because of this. That's why this lawsuit. Well, I don't know what to call it, because it's not really. It's technically not a lawsuit, but it's a complaint, listing out a set of harassment, and a set of issues, that Blake Lively has alleged that she suffered by the hands of Justin Baldoni. On July 31st, 2024, following the recommendation of our publicist Jennifer Abel, Wayfarer and Mr. Baldoni retained a crisis communication specialist named Melissa Nathan, and her company, the agency group PR LLC tag. Miss Nathan delivered a proposal to Mr. Baldoni, which included a website to discuss a full Reddit, full social account takedowns, full social crisis team on hand for anything engaged with the audiences in the right way. Start threads of theories, discuss. This is the way 100% protected. Miss Nathan also proposed the creation of social fan engagement to go back and forth with any negative accounts, helping to change the narrative and stay on track. Per Miss Nathan, all of this will be most importantly untraceable. As Miss Abel described it, the plan was to engage on social media's mitigation and proactive fan posting to counter the negative, as well as social manipulation. This plan went well beyond standard crisis PR. What Miss Nathan proposed included a practice known as astroturfing, which has been defined as the practice of publishing opinions or comments on the internet, in the media, etc., that appear to come from ordinary members of the public, but actually come from a particular company or political group. And this is the definition of astroturfing in there. On August 2nd, 2024, tag circulated scenario planning document to Mr. Baldoni, Mr. Heath, and others, which describe preparations and strategy should Miss Lively and her team make grievances public. The scenario planning document and is attached here too as Exhibit D. To get the narrative to get ahead of the narrative, let me go to Exhibit D. Go to Exhibit D. This is the document that is in reference. No. This is the document that's in reference. I'm not gonna read all of this, but it discusses the plan of action. Should anyone talk about it? Such as since scenario 1, Blake and team push out negative story. Ari, Justin and Wayfarer post premiere. Depending upon the scope of our push, we recommend planting a seed earlier on to position your truth narrative around the ordeal, in a subtle way to avoid having to backtrack. So that's an example of what they were of the strategic planning as outlined in Exhibit D. Okay, so back to the reading. It says, to get ahead of this narrative, Miss Nathan planned to propose strategies to advance misleading counter narratives, including pushing Nathan's narrative that Miss Lively had less favorable reputation, proposing proposing to explore planting stories about the weaponization of feminism and misleading blaming and misleadingly blaming Miss Lively for the production members' job losses. So this was the text message between Justin Baldoni and Miss Nathan. Initially, Mr. Baldoni expressed concerns that tags written plan was insufficiently aggressive to protect him. Writing to Mr. Heath and Miss Hable, he said he was not in love with the document they sent. Not sure I'm feeling the protection I felt on the call. With Miss Nathan and her colleagues, in response, Mr. Heath attempted to reassure Mr. Baldoni that they had found the right people for his campaign. In Mr. Heath's words, the most important part of this is how quickly they can shut things down and play stories in your favor. Later that day, Miss Hable and Miss Nathan exchanged the following text messages expressing that Mr. Baldoni wants to feel like Miss Lively can be buried. Miss Hable and Miss Nathan agreed that, of course, they would just do that, but could not say so in writing. We can't write it down to him. We can't write it. We can't write, we will destroy her. Imagine if a document saying all the things he wants ends up in the wrong hands. So this is this is the messages between Jennifer Abel and Melissa Nathan. It says you can of course do that, but I don't think he needs to know. I'm going to confidentially send you something. He's texting me and Jamie on the side just to arm you before this call. I think you guys need to be tough and show the strength of what you guys can do in these scenarios. He wants to feel like she can be buried. Of course, but you know we can. Of course, but you know when we send over the documents, we can't send over the work we will or could do, because that could get us in a lot of trouble. We can't write down to him. We can't write we will destroy her. We will go to we'll go to this. We'll do this. We'll do this. We'll do this. He has to look at it as an information document for us to be armed with. That's all. Imagine if a document's saying all the things that he wants end up in the wrong hands. So those are the messages. Miss Nathan followed this by assuring Miss Abel, you know we can bury anyone, but I can't write that to him. So he says, you know we can bury anyone, but I can't write that to him. I'll be very tough. So interestingly, what has happened on the Twitter front is that what's happened is that Jennifer Abel and Melissa Nathan has come out to clear their to kind of address this. So I'm gonna share a couple of the screenshots here. They have come out to basically address this and basically say Hi. I never thought the day would come when I needed to defend myself with my own peers, but this certainly has been an interesting and devastating, quite frankly, couple of days. So here we are. But here are the facts. No, I was never subpoenaed. I found out my private text messages and emails were included in the complaint after I received it on Friday night. And the New York Times contacted me 1.5 hours after receipt. They had already reviewed the 80-page document and had questions prepared, and apparently also received thousands of pages of documents with our correspondence that we never saw. So it was clear this was a coordinated effort, but nothing that we haven't seen before since I've been working in talent PR for over 15 years. I had recently left my previous firm, at which I was still during this campaign, with a team who all participated in the campaign, and a boss who oversaw and who had access to my work emails and work phone. So you can deduce from that what you will. What the cherry picked messages don't include, although not shockingly, as it doesn't fit the narrative, is that there was no smear implemented, no negative press was ever facilitated, and no social combat plan. Although we were prepared for it, as is our job to be ready for any scenario, but we didn't have to implement anything because the internet was doing the work for us. Sure, we talked about it, contemplated if we needed certain things, flagged accounts that we needed to monitor, worked with a shuttle team to help us stay on top of the narrative, so we could act quickly if needed. And yes, we rejoiced and joked, in fact, that the fans were recognizing our clients' heart and work without us having to do anything, but keep our heads down and focus on the positive interviews for our clients. And the Texas show, we sophomorically reveled and again joked privately to each other about the internet's feedback to the woman whose team was making our lives incredibly difficult over the course of the campaign. I'm human. The long hours, months of preparation on top of my day-to-day scope, it felt good to see that although we were prepared, we didn't have to do anything over the top to protect our clients. Incredibly difficult to say in what way. Funny you should ask. I was notified at the start of the campaign that the opposing team had been planting horrible stories about my client as a fail-safe. If my client did not comply with the demands set forth for the campaign, which is why we brought on crisis, as it's not something that I do. My sole job was to put together interviews, screening opportunities, and speaking opportunities for my client in support of the film. A standard scope of work. I did my job. Now, what kind of woman would work against another woman who was a victim of all the things being claimed? Thanks for asking. After reviewing the evidence, facts, hard proof that counted every single thing that was being claimed and demanded at the start of the production, I made a choice to stand by my client of almost 5 years, who had dedicated his life to the equal treatment of others, especially women, who had no incidents of negative treatment of others, and who had a wonderful community and team at Wayfarer, who all held the same moral fortitude and lived their life accordingly. As representatives, we all have to make that choice. So I did the best of my ability. So I did that to the best of my ability, and felt good about our efforts. Is my client perfect? No. In fact, he says that he's not perfect so constantly, to the point I tell him that he needs to be less self deprecating, because it could be taken the wrong way. Blake's feelings valid is not my permission to say or speculate what she was feeling in these moments, that she claims. And I would never slam a woman for speaking her truth. But at the end of the day, if it's not the truth and there is evidence that proves otherwise, then as a representative, I have to do what I feel is right as well. So that was the response. Um, that was the response of Jennifer Abel, who took to, I believe, I'm not sure whether it's Twitter. I believe it's Instagram. I believe this was originally on Instagram. It was shared by Ariana Jacob, who shared the screenshots of all that she had to say. So that was her response to these text messages that she was speaking with Vanessa, over the course of with Minister Nathan, over the course of the lawsuit. I'm sorry, over the course of this campaign being enacted. So there was a couple of things that stood out to me in reading that, and that is the fact that there is validation for these plans being implemented, or, well, not really implemented, that's the wrong word to use, but being formalized or being planned out. And it shows that sometimes in the game of PR, that there is a plan to do something, but sometimes nature just takes over. And when I say nature just takes over, in this case, it was the fans. So the reason why I brought that out is because, like, if you remember, I mentioned Amber Heard before. I'm using her as an example because she has been alleging bots were used to basically what is being alleged here by Blake Lively. She's been alleging has been happening with her, that astroturfing was being used. But what I have seen there is that the plan could be there for a team to put that together, but the people using their eyes and senses to form an opinion could be so great that they don't have to do anything. And I believe that's what happened in regards with the entire trial for her, which is what everyone has been saying in regards with Amber Heard, because that's essentially what happened with the trial, right? We all watch what happened and we all react. So let's just say that if there was a plan, I don't know if there was, so I'm not privy to anything. So, but let's say that there was the trial that happened, there will be no need. There'll be no need to actually implement anything or do anything. Is basically what I've come to realize based on what she basically said, what Jennifer Abel basically said in that post, that the voice of the people is enough to kind of stop or kind of ease off on the implementation of a plan. It can derail the implementation of the plan because it's no longer needed. So especially in the case of Amber Heard, where everyone was having an opinion about it, where so many people had watched, and the trial, it was watched by the entire planet at that point. So there was no point to actually use. Um, I'm saying if there was a plan. I'm not saying that there was a plan. I'm just saying if there was, it would have been the same story here. Like there would have been no point to even implement it. Miss Abel's respond Miss Abel responded that she had just spoken to Melissa about this, about what we discussed the last night for social and digital. Okay, so going back into reading the lawsuit, Miss Abel added focus. Miss Abel added focus on Reddit, TikTok, and IG, with reassurance that Miss Lively would be destroyed and buried. Wayfarer and Mr. Baldoni directed Miss Nathan and her team to actively engage in their retaliatory social manipulation campaign. In the weeks and months that followed, with the direction and approval of Wayfarer and Mr. Baldoni, the team engaged in a sophisticated, coordinated, and well-financed retaliation plan. The retaliation, and also, I just want to say the comparison to with Blake Lively and Amber Heard is just completely. It's laughable. It's laughable. I just want to say that because Amber Heard has spoken out in regards to all of this. All of this, it's laughable because both cases are not even comparable. The one has brought a lot of receipts to back up what she says, and the other, which is Amber Heard in this case, was pretty much enacting a smear campaign of our own by using TMZ, by hiring a PR firm during the trial, and that PR, and with Shane, with I don't know his name, but his name is Shane. He was hired, and he had his own Me Too case going on. So everything, comparing, the fact that she inserted herself in all of this, it's just a farce. It's just a farce to me, and it's just, they're both not comparable in any way. So moving on, the retaliation campaign relied on more than just publicists and crisis managers spinning stories. They also retained subcontractors, including a Texas-based contractor named Jed Wallace, who weaponized a digital army around the country from New York to Los Angeles to create, seed, promote content that appeared to be authentic on social media platforms and internet chat forums. The Baldoni Wayfarer team would then feed pieces of this manufactured content to unwitting reporters, making the content go viral in order to influence public opinion and thereby cause an organic pylon. To safeguard against the risk of Miss Lively ever revealing the truth about Mr. Baldoni, the Baldoni Wayfarer team created, planted, and amplified and boosted content designed to eviscerate Miss Lively's credibility. They engaged in the same techniques to bolster Mr. Baldoni's credibility, and suppress any negative content about him. On August 10th, on August 10th, the day after the release of the film, Miss Nathan's team reported that they had started to see a shift on social due largely to Jet and his team's effort to shift the narrative. So here is more text messages from Jennifer Abel. So, and it's interesting. One thing that's very interesting about this lawsuit is the fact that they have been able to get all of this discovery. Well, sorry, all of this communications without the need of discovery. I don't know how they were able to do that, but that is something that has been a standout in this lawsuit, that they have so much communication, so much receipts without having to engage in discovery. That same day, Miss Nathan noted as part of this shift, the majority of socials as pro Justin, and even I don't agree with half of them. So that's what she said here, Miss Nathan, to Jennifer Abel. Miss Nathan then bragged to Miss Abel and that Mr. Baldoni doesn't realize how lucky he is right now, by which they are referring to their successful efforts to shut down the stories that would have revealed how Mr. Baldoni's behavior, including sexual connotations on set, had made cast and crew beyond Miss Lively uncomfortable. Less than 1 week later, they again bragged about how they had shut down the stories regarding HR complaints on set. On August 15th, 2024, Melissa Nathan remarked, "This went so well, it was genius. So okay, we have the four majors. We have the four majors standing down on HR complaint." Okay. It appears that my okay. On August 16th, Miss Nathan circulated a Daily Mail article entitled "String of Hard Videos to Watch" that have surfaced following tone deaf Q&A to promote "It Ends With Us" could tarnish 36-year-old's golden Hollywood image for good. To which Miss Abel responded, "Wow, you really outdid yourself with this piece." And Miss Nathan replied, "That's why you hired me, right? I'm the best." So this part is showing another side to PR. And I spoke with Megan Fox, who is a writer. I spoke with her on the channel. I will add the card to that interview after the stream. But we discussed about this PR and how they use pieces like this, how they would use different outlets to enact or to get their stories out there. So it's interesting to see them use the Daily Mail, Page 6, and all of those big publications to construct and basically put out there. And Megan Fox really shed a lot of light on the use of these PR practices like that, and basically showed that a lot of the stories that you read are nothing but mere puff pieces. Especially when you look at the context of, again, Amber Heard, this practice reveals a lot, because when you see a favorable piece from Deadline, for example, or Hollywood Reporter, all of those, most likely she has engaged in something like this to get that message out there. Okay, paragraph 24. We're not going to be reading all of this, by the way. We're going to be stopping around paragraph 80. I think around there. We're going to be stopping. So we're not going to be reading all of this lawsuit, by the way. So just a heads up. on that. But yeah, shout out to everyone that's locked in right now. And are reading this with me. I appreciate every single one of you. So make sure that you hit the like button as well as the subscribe button if you find this content useful for you. So continuing on, it says, as their own words reveal, the purpose of this social manipulation plan was twofold. It aimed to both conceal the pattern of harassment and other misconduct by Mr. Baldoni, Mr. Heath, and Wayfarer, and B, retaliate against Miss Lively by battering her image, harming her business, and causing her and her family severe emotional harm. Millions of people, including many reporters and influencers who saw these planted stories, social media posts, and other online content, had no idea they were unwitting consumers of a crisis PR, astroturfing, and digital retaliation campaign created and funded by Mr. Baldoni and Wayfarer to herb Miss Lively. That is precisely the goal of an astroturfing campaign: to light the fire and continue to stoke conversations secretly, blurring the line between authentic and manufactured content, and creating viral public takedowns. So that's interesting there that they mentioned the influencers that were speaking about these stories, because that's all you can do with an astroturf. You can only lay it. It's the people that decide to play on it without realizing that they're playing on an artificial pitch rather than a real the real deal, are the ones that are being fooled, so to speak. So to expand the analogy that I just gave, there were some people that were commenting on this, and I watched some of some content creators who were reacting to what they were seeing in regards to the Blake Lively old fiasco, and a lot of them did not know the origin. And it's interesting as well because I watched Chase Hughes, and he gave his opinion on propaganda and how it works. And what he basically said that was interesting from that propaganda is you gotta pay attention if there are updates. That's what he said in regards to propaganda. You gotta pay attention if there are updates to the story. If there are no updates to the story, it's likely fabricated or likely just put there just to distract you. So when I watch his content on propaganda, it made me think of this, because it's interesting how the story just went away for a bit. There was nothing to discuss about Blake Lively. It was all going on at that time, and then it's now being talked about again because of this lawsuit that we're discussing now. And this one does have updates to it, because Justin Baldoni has been sued for defamation by his former PR. There is that update with the story. There is other people coming forward to discuss this particular case. So this one doesn't seem like, I'm basically just basically saying that it's interesting how it seems that that people are reacting to these people were reacting to the astroturfing without realizing that it was astroturf, basically. Okay, moving on. So paragraph 25 says, as laid out in this complaint, the Baldoni welfare-led public attack of Miss Lively was intended result of a carefully crafted, coordinated, and resource retaliatory scheme to silence her and others from speaking out about the hospital work environment that Mr. Baldoni and Mr. Heath created. As such, it was not only unconscionable, and a breach of contract, but also illegal under both state and federal law. Miss Lively brings this action to hold Wayfarer and his leaders, Mr. Baldoni, Mr. Heath, and Mr. Sarowitz, accountable for the ongoing retaliation, threats, and harm they have caused Miss Lively and Miss Lively, other cast and crew, and all of all of their families. So we're not going into factual background. Like I said, we're not gonna be reading all of this. We're just gonna read the I think up to G, because not all of it is relevant to what we need to discuss today. So Justin Baldoni and Jamie Heath of Wayfarer engage in inappropriate and unwelcome behavior toward Miss Lively and others on set of It Ends With Us. Mr. Baldoni launched Wayfarer Studios along with Mr. Sarowitz in 2020. Mr. Heath serves as Wayfarer's chief executive officer. Mr. Sarowitz is the leading financier of Wayfarer, and Mr. Heath, and Mr. Baldoni are close personal friends. Under the Wayfarer banner, Mr. Baldoni and Mr. Heath have many platforms, including the Man Enough podcast, which they co-host. Mr. Baldoni and Mr. Heath have positioned Wayfarer as a male feminist platform that explores gender roles, dismantles toxic masculinity, and creates a safer and judgment-free society for women. I think I've seen this podcast actually. If I'm not I think I've seen it in my research. When I was doing the Deb V. Heard Labyrinth, I think I saw the podcast. He said, Mr. Baldoni serves not only as the co-founder and co-chairman of the studio, that financed and ran production on It Ends With Us. He also served as director, executive producer, co-lead actor, and playing the role of Rao Kincaid. As studio head and director, all actors, crew, and staff on the film, including Miss Lively, answered to Mr. Baldoni. In his words, he was the leader who sat at the top of the totem pole. While Sony was the distributor releasing the film, Wayfarer was responsible for the production, and Wayfarer was led by Mr. Baldoni and Mr. Heath. Production of the film began in early 2023 and lasted until it was suspended in mid-June 2023 due to the Writers Guild of America strike. During that time, Miss Lively and other cast and crew experienced invasive, unwelcome, unprofessional, and sexually inappropriate behavior by Mr. Baldoni and Mr. Heath. Because Mr. Baldoni and Mr. Heath held all leadership positions on the production, they answered to no one and brushed off or ignored the concerns Miss Lively and others expressed. All of this is a PR battle. And we're gonna be talking about that a bit more. When we finish reading this, you're gonna have my views and takes on this PR battle and where it's gonna go, where I think it's gonna go from here. Mr. Baldoni ignored well-established industry protocols in filming intimate scenes and exploited the lack of controls on set to behave inappropriately. Wayfarer failed to adhere to guild rules as well as Miss Lively's contract and standard industry safety protocols with respect to nudity and intimate scenes. with the Screen Actors Guild and and American Federation of Television and Radio Artists SAG-AFTRA, and acknowledges place performers in uniquely vulnerable positions. 1 second. Such safeguards ignored by Wayfarer include providing performers with appropriate notice of nudity and simulated sex, and ensuring that consent is given free of pressure or coercion. Signed nudity riders are in place, spelling out the parameters of nudity or stimulated sex scenes, safe and secure working conditions that are not detrimental to a performer's health, safety, morals, and career. The use of intimacy coordinators to observe intimate scenes. Without these protections in place, Mr. Baldoni improvised physical intimacy that had not been rehearsed, choreographed, or discussed with Miss Lively, with no intimacy coordinator involved. For instance, Mr. Baldoni discreetly bit and sucked on Miss Lively's lower lip during a scene in which he improvised numerous kisses on each take. Mr. Baldoni insisted on shooting the full scene over and over again, while beyond what would have been required on an ordinary set without an advance notice or consent. I can see how that's disturbing. On another occasion, Mr. Baldoni and Miss Lively were filming a slow down scene for a montage in which no sound was recorded. Mr. Baldoni chose to let the camera roll and have them perform the scene, but did not act in the character as Ryle. Instead, he spoke to Miss Lively out of character as himself. At one point, he leaned forward and slowly dragged his lips from her ear down to her neck, as he said, "It smells so good." None of this was remotely in character or based on any dialogue in the script, and nothing needed to be said again. Nothing needed to be said because, again, there was no sound. Mr. Baldoni was caressing Miss Lively with that's a bit of an error there, with Miss Lively with his mouth in a way that had nothing to do with their roles. When Miss Lively later objected to this behavior, Mr. Baldoni's response was "I'm not even attracted to you." That's interesting right there, because they're all supposed to be acting, right? And sometimes they do improvise in acting. So this world, I don't understand the acting world, because improvising is part of the gig. But let me not give my opinion on acting wise, because I don't know anything about the world. But based on what I've read, if this is true, he is in hot water a lot. Mr. Baldoni inserted improvised gratuitous sexual content and or scenes involving nudity into the film, including for an underage character in highly unsettling ways. After Miss Lively signed on to the movie based on the draft of the script, Mr. Baldoni, without Miss Lively's knowledge or consent, personally added graphic content, including a scene in which Miss Lively was to orgasm on camera. Ew. When Miss Lively objected to these additions, Mr. Baldoni insisted he had added them because he was making the film through the female gaze. Although he agreed to remove the scenes, he made a last-ditch attempt to keep one in which the couple orgasmed together on their wedding night, which he said he said was important to him because he and his partner climaxed simultaneously during intercourse. Mr. Baldoni then intrusively asked Miss Lively whether she and her husband climaxed simultaneously during intercourse, which Miss Lively found invasive and refused to discuss. That is not discussion. I don't see how that's relevant to the movie. If I'm being frankly honest, on the day of the shooting of the scene in which Miss Lively's character gives birth, Mr. Baldoni and Mr. Heath suddenly pressured Miss Lively to simulate full nudity, despite no mention of nudity for this scene in the script, her contract, or in previous creative discussions. Mr. Baldoni insisted to Miss Lively that women gave birth naked, that his wife ripped off her clothes during labor. He claimed that it was not normal for women to remain in their hospital gowns while giving birth. Miss Lively disagreed, but felt forced into a compromise that she would not be naked from below the chest down. My bad. That she would be naked from below the chest down. So, okay. When the birth scene was filmed, the set was chaotic, crowded, and utterly lacking in the standard industry protections for filming nude scenes, such as choreographing the scene with an intimacy coordinator, having a signed nudity rider, or simply turning off the monitors so the scene was not broadcast to all crew on set and on their personal phones and iPad. And here I was thinking, whenever I saw this nudity on scene, I just thought they just got on scene and just got naked. But I'm learning every day that they have all of these provisions in place so that the scene can be carried out safely. I did not know that. Mr. Heath, and Mr. Baldoni also failed to close the set, allowing non-essential. Well, in this case, they are not doing it. She's alleging that they're not doing it safely. Anyway, going back to read this, saying Mr. Heath and Mr. Baldoni also failed to close the set, allowing non-essential crew to pass through while Miss Lively was mostly nude, with her legs spread wide in stirrups, and only a small piece of fabric covering her genitalia. Among the non-essential persons present that day was Wayfarer co-chairman Mr. Misaritz, who flew in for one of his few set visits. Miss Lively was not provided with anything to cover herself with between takes until after she had made multiple requests. Miss Lively became even more alarmed when Mr. Baldoni introduced his best friend to play the role of the OBGYN, when ordinarily a small role of this nature would be filled by a local actor. Miss Lively felt that the selection of Mr. Baldoni's friend for this intimate role, in which the actor's face and hands were in close proximity to nearly nude genitalia for a birth scene, was invasive and humiliating. I can understand why. To add insult to injury, Mr. Heath approached Miss Lively and her assistant on set and started playing a video of a fully nude woman with her legs apart. Miss Lively thought he was Miss Lively thought he was showing her pornography and stopped him. Mr. Heath explained that the video was his wife giving birth. Miss Lively was alarmed and asked Mr. Heath if his wife knew he was sharing the video, to which he replied, "She isn't weird about this stuff," as if Miss Lively was weird for not welcoming it. Miss Lively and her assistant excused themselves, stunned that Mr. Heath showed them a nude video. Mr. Baldoni added a detailed scene to the film in which the underage version of Miss Lively's character Lily loses her virginity. In both the book and the script of the film, there was no sex scene. Instead, the details about this movement were left to the audience imagination. But Mr. Baldoni added inconsiderable details, including both dialogue between young Lily and her boyfriend Atlas about the loss of her virginity, as well as a stimulated sex scene in which Mr. Baldoni filmed and included is in his initial cut of the film, a close-up of young Lily's face, accompanied by an audible gasp at the moment of penetration. Miss Lively was informed that when the scene was shot, after Mr. Baldoni cut, he walked over to the actors and said, "I know I'm not supposed to say this, but that was hot." And did you two practice before this? Did you two practice this before? Okay. I personally think. I mean, again, I don't know what the industry standards are. I think he's trying to relate to the actors there, but this is she's alleging that this is not the right way to go. Mr. Baldoni and Mr. Heath discuss their personal sexual experiences and previous porn addiction, and try to pressure Miss Lively to reveal details about her intimate life. That's just weird. During a car ride with Miss Lively, her assistant and driver Mr. Baldoni claimed to Miss Lively that he had been sexually abused by a former girlfriend, which he has since shared publicly. At the end of this story, Mr. Baldoni shared that it had caused him to re-examine his past. He then said, "Did I always ask for consent? No. Did I always listen when they said no? No." Mr. Baldoni claimed this was an example of how we all have things which we can learn and grow. Miss Lively was unsettled by Mr. Baldoni's suggestion that he had engaged in sexual conduct without consent. When Miss Lively exited the car, our driver immediately remarked that he did not want Miss Lively to be alone with Mr. Baldoni going forward. On the first day of production, Mr. Baldoni and Mr. Heath described their past sexual relationships to Miss Lively, including one of them used to hook up with a woman. Mr. Baldoni said that he had decided that the woman wasn't the one, so then Mr. Heath had gotten together with her. Miss Lively found this description of passing along a woman to be disrespectful and disturbing. It is. I'm surprised. I don't know what context in which they found that it would be okay to discuss this with her. Were they suffering from were they suffering from some kind of mental illness or something like that to be discussing like that openly? Anyway, moving on. It says Mr. Baldoni and Mr. Heath often spoke of their previous pornography addiction. Mr. Baldoni would often reference pornography to Miss Lively. Hoping to shut the subject down, she said to him privately that she had never seen it. Later, when Mr. Baldoni was once again referencing his experiences with pornography, he revealed in front of other cast and crew that Miss Lively had never seen porn. It was an incredible invasion of our privacy to discuss anything in any aspect of our intimate life with the cast and crew, and much less reveal something that she had only told Mr. Baldoni to try and get him to stop talking about the subject with her. This is a nightmare. Mr. Baldoni engaged in other behaviors that were shocking and emotionally distressing. For example, he claimed he could speak to the dead, and on several occasions told her that he had spoken to her dead father. It was off-putting and violative for Mr. Baldoni to claim a personal relationship with her recently deceased father. Mr. Baldoni and Mr. Heath were also constantly hugging and touching cast and crew. When Miss Lively or others avoided this touching, Mr. Baldoni and Mr. Heath would retaliate by becoming irritated and cold and uncollaborative. This was an unwelcoming and a mercurial environment for Miss Lively and her employees and others on the set. Mr. Baldoni objectified Miss Lively and other women by commenting on or criticizing their bodies as sex objects. Mr. Baldoni often referred to women in the workplace as sexy. When they expressed discomfort, Mr. Baldoni would deflect it or try to pass it off, which undermined Miss Lively and others' concerns. For example, on one occasion that Miss Lively observed, he told a female cast member that Aloha pants looked sexy when she arrived to the set. When she rebuffed his comment because she was uncomfortable, rather than apologizing, he brushed it off with, I can say that because my wife is here today." Miss wow. Wow. Miss Lively felt embarrassed witnessing this kind of commentary, as did others. On another day, Miss Lively wore a low-cut dress to facilitate breastfeeding, but had to cover it up with a coat. When the jacket briefly popped open at one point to reveal the dress, Mr. Baldoni commented about how much he liked her outfit, which flustered Miss Lively. Later that day, Mr. Baldoni pressured Miss Lively, who was in her pre-approved wardrobe, to remove her coat in front of the crew and multiple background actors in the park bar. He said he wanted to see a onesie under the coat because it was zipped low to reveal her lace bra. Consistent with past practice, he said, "I think you look sexy," in a tone that made her feel ogled and exposed. With other female cast present, she said that's not what I'm going for. He bristled and replied, "I'm sorry, hot." Deeply uncomfortable, Miss Lively said, "Not that either." Mr. Baldoni responded sarcastically, I guess I missed the HR meeting," and walked away. And another woman on the production spoke to Miss Lively afterwards to offer empathy and to share her own similar experiences with Mr. Baldoni, commenting about her in sexual terms. As a result of Mr. Baldoni's behavior, on May 29, 2023, another cast member lodged a sexual harassment complaint about Mr. Baldoni's gross and unwanted comments towards her and others. I want to see that complaint, actually. I would like to see that complaint. While on the one hand, Mr. Baldoni was objectifying Miss Lively as a sex object, on the other hand, he went out of his way to message criticisms of her age and weight, neither of which she could change during filming. On the second day of filming, For example, Mr. Baldoni made the rest of the cast and crew wait out for hours while he cried in Miss Lively's dressing room, claiming social media commentators were saying that Miss Lively looked old and unattractive based on paparazzi photos from the set. She tried to reassure him that she looked authentic in the scenes depicted in the photos, which were just for her character. I've been abused by a fictional husband rather than hot. Mr. Baldoni, however, appeared focused on Miss Lively's sexual appeal above all else. His lengthy outburst caused a delay in shooting, forcing an emotional scene to be shot haphazardly. To make matters worse, when Miss Lively tried to have a meeting with Mr. Heath and the other producers to discuss Mr. Baldoni's unprofessional behavior described above, that meeting turned into yet another violation. Rather than an ordinary meeting time and place, Mr. Heath arrived unannounced at Miss Lively's hair and makeup trailer while she was topless and having her body makeup removed by makeup artists. Miss Lively told Mr. Heath that she was almost done, and they could speak when she was clothed. Mr. Heath, however, insisted that if she didn't allow him into her trailer to speak with him at that moment, then there will be no meeting with the other producers. Miss Lively reluctantly agreed, but asked Mr. Heath to keep his back turned. A few minutes into the conversation, Miss Lively noticed that Mr. Heath was staring directly at her while she was topless. When she called him out, Mr. Heath brushed it off as a habit of wanting to look at a person while speaking to them. Miss Lively and her hair and makeup artist were deeply disturbed by this interaction on just the second day of filming. Wow. Talk about creepy. Throughout filming, Mr. Baldoni and Mr. Heath invaded Miss Lively's privacy by entering her makeup trailer uninvited while she was undressed, including when she was breastfeeding her infant child. Miss Lively often had to work while breastfeeding, which she felt comfortable doing so long as she was given time and space to cover herself. She did this frequently because she was not given breaks to feed her baby. But Miss Lively did not expect or consent to anyone entering her private spaces while topless, exposed, and vulnerable with a newborn, or during body makeup application or removal. Mr. Baldoni and Mr. Heath both showed a shocking lack of boundaries by invading her personal space when she was undressed and vulnerable. Mr. Baldoni also routinely degraded Miss Lively by finding back-channel ways of criticizing her body and weight. A few weeks before filming began, and less than 4 months after Miss Lively had given birth to her fourth child, Miss Lively was humiliated to learn that Mr. Baldoni secretly called her fitness trainer without her knowledge or permission, and implied that he wanted her to lose weight in 2 weeks. Mr. Baldoni told the trainer that he had asked because he was concerned about having to pick Miss Lively up in a scene for a movie, but there was no such scene. Wow. When Miss Lively caught strep throat, Mr. Baldoni offered as a gift to connect her with an expert he had on retainer to help her with her probiotics to combat the sickness. When Miss Lively filled out privacy forms, she saw the expert was not what Mr. Baldoni had represented her to be, but instead a weight loss specialist. Miss Lively felt once again that Mr. Baldoni was shaming her for her body and weight. Mr. Baldoni and Mr. Heath failed to implement COVID protocols when there was a COVID outbreak. Miss Lively was told by another producer that because Wayfarer did not have insurance coverage for COVID, Mr. Baldoni and Mr. Heath deliberately withheld from Miss Lively that she had been exposed to COVID. But both Miss Lively and her infant child contracted COVID. Contracted COVID from the outbreak, and that's all I'm going to be covering for today. That's all I'm going to be covering for today. So, what this is we are in a middle of a PR campaign, a PR war, folks, because that's what's going on, because this filing is kind of a PR in of itself, a PR response in of itself, because of the fact that a lot of eyes are going to be on it, and a lot of things that come through the courts are legitimized immediately in the public eyes as factual. So choosing this method to respond to a PR campaign that was done against her is smart. It's smart. I'm gonna say so myself. But it's not. But using the courts to engage in a PR battle, I don't know. That doesn't sit right with me, because as I've gone through all of this lawsuit, we didn't do that today on the stream, but I've read the whole thing today, and there is no cause of action. There was nothing that she's alleging to the court that asking for help. Like, there's no prayer for relief. It's like she doesn't want anything from the court outside of, please hear this complaint, but there is nothing she's not asking the court to do anything about the complaint, if that makes sense. So I do wonder if this is if this is the future of PR campaigns, like if they're going to be using the courts to carry out their PR speeches or grievances, PR grievances. Sorry, I meant to say, because like I said, when people look at these, when people look at court documents, it automatically is legitimized in their eyes as factual. And to be quite fair, a lot of the things that she has alleged does seem, on the face of it, factual. It does seem true. I don't know if they are true. I don't know. Everything is alleged at this point, but on the face of it, if it comes out to be true at some point in the future, I will not be surprised. You know what I mean? Because everything that we've gone through today, at the very least, that goes through the nature of the complaint, to show that Mr. Baldoni and how much he was allegedly pushing the boundaries and blurring the lines between, and how Mr. Heath was also doing the same thing, and how the workplace was not really tenable was not really healthy for someone like Blake Lively to work in. I can see that being actionable in terms of, like, let's say that she was alleging intentional infliction of emotional distress, something like that. But that's not even being alleged either. That's not even being, there's nothing here outside of, I have been harassed by by these men on set. But so this is just been a complaint, but PR wise, it has been the perfect response for her. In response to the PR campaign that was allegedly waged against her, and as we've gone through the response from Jennifer Abel, who has taken the side of Justin Baldoni, I don't really care for the sides, to be honest. I don't really care for the team. I don't care if you're a team Blake Lively or if you're team Lively or team Baldoni. I don't care. I'm just here to just discuss this and what I find lacking. What I found interesting from this lawsuit. Not lacking in what I'm saying, but there was a lot lacking from this lawsuit that I was hoping to find. Because that's the first thing that I went to look at. I was as I was reading all of this, I was like, okay, cool, okay, I'll get to the nature of the complaint anytime soon now, and it just never came. It was just a complaint, and it's the first for me. I've never seen a lawsuit like that, where it's just alleging, where it doesn't allege a cause of action. It doesn't allege a prayer it doesn't give a prayer for relief. It's just a complaint. It's just aligning a factual background, and that's it. I've never seen something like that, so it's a first for me. But anyway, let me know how you feel. Let me know what you think of the stream in the chat or in the comment section if you're watching this back on replay. Thank you so much for tuning in, everyone. I appreciate every single one of you. That's all we have time for today. Thank you so much once again for tuning in, every single one of you. I will see. I am working on a new video to release onto the site. It's going to be a case that I've been looking at called a case of Joseph Falazzo, who murdered his wife. I'm going to be releasing a video on that in regards to his court case. So keep your eye out for that. I do aim to cover more and more trials and do more and more of this reading. So I hope to see you guys more here. And so yeah, thank you so much everyone for tuning in. Take good care of yourself. Have a great I hope you guys are having a good holiday season, and I hope you have a good evening or night or day wherever you're at. Take care of yourself and have a good one. Bye for now.
The show is over, but that does not mean that the fun has to end. And I know how cliche that sounds, but really and truly, the fun really does not have to end. You know how good our streams are and how fun they can be. So we have decided to put them all into a podcast and a playlist format for you to binge on if you so wish. We also do recaps and clips of the best bits, the worst bits, all of those bits, lady bits, every bits, whatever it might be. We do that as well, and we upload onto the channel so in case you guys just you don't wanna watch the full thing, you have the option of watching just the short versions. It's up to you. You have the choice. You have the power, like E-Man. So without further, you can also check out the main Heinz website where we continue the discussions over there, but in a more broader context to try and get into the psychology of why all these things happen. The end screen should be up here so that you guys can see the content you guys can watch. The playlist will be on your left hand side or right hand side, I don't know which one, and the video that and a recap clip should pop up here. So without further, I'll just say bye, and I'll see you on the next stream, and most importantly, the Unintentional Juror podcast. See you there.